Welcome back, GRD130, History of Graphic Design, to part 2 of our ex3 Hoppy dog, where we're building a simple, clever logo using logotype and using a mark where we're making a simplified dog face that looks happy, except the beer is hoppy, but that's what makes it clever, because it's a happy dog, but it's hoppy dog. Get it? Anyway, let's get back to making some ears on here if you want. I ended up not doing ears because it might look happy even without ears, and that might even be more simplified. But if you want ears, you could go in and try to do ears. You don't have to make them stand up. You could make them a little floppy. Probably the best thing to do is take the pen tool, and remember, I'm going to have no fill when I do this. I'm on the pen tool. I'm going to take away a fill. I don't want any fill, but I do want a border. And maybe what I'll do here is I'll just kind of click, and I'll make kind of a floppy ear a little bit here. And I'll just kind of do something like that. Now, I don't know how good this will look, but we'll try it out. And make sure you click on where you started. Now, I'm going to go back to my sub-select tool, and I'll hover over this. Now, you have to do it while these things are selected. If they're not selected, you have to click on the line. Now, be careful if you click again and you click here, it's going to add a point. We don't need to add points, but if you hover, you could kind of drag and kind of bend that a little bit. And I could go over here and just drag and bend it just a little bit, and I could bend this up a little bit. And if I wanted this rounded, I could go here and make this mirrored. Now that's going to make it really come out, but then you could kind of shorten these a little bit as much as you can and do something like that. Might be okay, might not, but we could try that and see how that looks. Now I'm just going to give it a fill, so I'll hit the plus sign. Now it's a fill. I'll take away the border because I don't need a border. And if I'm happy with this, I'll click on this. Now I'm going to call this left ear like I did before with the eyes. And then I'll make a copy. I'll hold down my Option key and just drag it, and then make sure you leave go of your mouse first. And if you move up and down, it should kind of line up and down with the other ear. And then flip it using this. And again, to try and center it, the best thing to do is shift click on this one so they're both selected, and then group them, because then they'll act like one object, and it's easy to center them using this thing, the align center centered on the page. And the group I'll just call ears. And again, if it turns out you don't like the ears, I'll hit enter. You just turn them off. No ears. Ears, no ears. And you could draw new ears if you want, if you don't like those. But I'll leave them on for now. Maybe we'll stick with the ears. Now, we still have a dog with a big smile, but we're going to put a tongue in here. So that means I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to add a border, and I'm just going to hide the fill. It doesn't mean I have to delete the fill. I'm just going to hide it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this, because when we're drawing the tongue, I don't want to be selecting the mouth or anything. So what I want is a tongue, and don't worry about the real tongue. We're just going to kind of center it in here. And what I'll try to do is maybe do it with the pen tool. Maybe we'll do something with the pen tool. I'll start right here on this kind of middle line here, and I'll just kind of go over, and I'll go down. And you might say, you're making a triangle. What kind of tongue is that? But I'm just going to make like this weird triangle shape right now. Even if I go over here, you could almost hover and it should line up over there. And then I'll click right here. And that's kind of a weird tongue shape. But if I go to my sub-select tool and I click on this point down here and I make it mirrored, it pulls that out. Now it's kind of a wide tongue, and I could kind of pull this in. If I hold shift, I could keep this straight and make it kind of a narrower tongue. And that doesn't look too bad. You could kind of move this stuff up a little bit. You could even smooth it out if you want to, if you don't want like an angle. If you wanted this smooth, you could even like delete that, I think, and then hover over here and just kind of bend it up and do something like that. That doesn't look too bad. And you could make it red. You could do whatever you want. I'll show you something where you can actually put an outline on it. Now, I'm going to name this tongue because it's his tongue. And I'm going to give it a fill for now. I'll add a fill, and I'll just make it red for now, just so it looks like a red tongue. And I'll go back and unlock my mouth, my mouth layer, and then I'll select it. Now, if I'm selecting the objects, I don't need to be on sub-select anymore. I'm going to go back to pointer, and I'll select the mouth. And again, if there's no fill, you have to select on the edge. And I'll turn on the fill, and I'll delete the stroke. I don't need the stroke anymore, or the border, I should say. And what I'll do here, whether I have it red or pink or whatever, I'm going to put a stroke on here. Now, there's a thin stroke, but one thing I just want to point out, when you go to border, and I'm going to go to the border options, and I'm going to make sure that it's on the outside. This is the outside, the far one over there, so that's highlighted in red. And then I'm also going to click on this, auto scale borders, and we'll have to do that with text too. So if you ever scale the logo, it'll scale the border with it. It won't keep it the same thickness. So make sure that you do that, auto scale border, and make sure we make this on the outside. So that way if I drag up on this, you could drag on this, or you could put in numbers, and you can make this real thick. I don't want it that thick. I'll go up maybe something like that. That looks okay. And like I said, if you wanted to go and make it paler, you can make it a little paler red. And we can make it white too. We don't have to leave it this red color, but I'll see what that looks like without the dog. And I think we're pretty much done with the dog itself right now. We have tongue, ears, mouth. We could even, group all this together. But what I'm going to do right now is turn off the image layer and just see what our dog looks like. And kind of zoom out like that. And that looks okay. And what you could do also is with your pointer is highlight everything here. Something weird happened. let me zoom in and zoom out again. I highlighted and it did some weird things. So let me highlight these again. I'll highlight all these so it looks like that. And you can see all these things are highlighted, and I'm going to group everything. And I'll just call it dog, because that's my dog. And it still has all the stuff inside here if you need to get to different things, but it's just kind of grouped. They're all kind of packaged together. And all I'm going to do is just zoom out and make this small. So I'm just going to grab on this corner, and if you go in a 45-degree angle, you shouldn't have to hold shift. So I'm just going to kind of move it up here and keep it centered on the page. Now that it's a group, you could use this. I'll center it on the page, make it nice and small, center it again. Remember, when you just select one object, it centers on the page. When you select two, they center together. But if it's a group, they treat them as one object. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'll just show you what I did with text. And remember, I could go in here and change the tongue to white if I want, but I'll leave it red now. And again, if you turn off the ears, maybe you don't like the ears. We could turn off the ears, because maybe it doesn't look like a dog like that. I could go in here, ears, turn them off. There's no ears. And if I want to click on mouth, or I guess it's the tongue, I could click on the tongue. If I want to make it white, I could go here and make it white. That's what's nice about a group. Then I could close up my group. Now I'm going to use some type. So I'm going to go up here to my text tool, and I'm just going to click on my page. And now this is coming up in Roboto Condensed, because that's what I used last time. Yours might come up in Open Sans, and that's fine. Now when you go in here, if you double click in here, it'll highlight everything. And I'm just going to put Hoppy Dog. And it might look okay just like that. You might say, wow, that looks nice like that. I don't have to do anything. And put it there and make it bigger so you have a nice little kind of black and white looking logo like that. That doesn't look that bad like that. The only reason I used the one that's script, because I had Open Sans, and then this Oleo script was right next to it, and I was like, oh, I'll click on that. And I was like, that doesn't look bad. Now, I don't know if that goes nice with that. Maybe a modern font would be better, but this is what I used in the sample, so I'll stick with this. I use this Oleo script. And a couple things when you're using text, if you scroll down over here, if you use auto scale font, you'll get that little red button, and that way you can grab on here and make it bigger. And if you ever have an issue where the box is really big and you have a lot of extra space, just hit auto, and it'll kind of collapse the box on that. But auto scale font will let you scale this without having to mess with the point size. So I'm going to put that in here, and then I'm going to do another one. I'll click, and I'll add my text tool again, and I'll click down here. Now it's staying in the same font, so I'm going to double click inside here, and I'll just put Brewing Company. Now to make caps, you have to hold down your shift key. They don't have a caps button, which is ridiculous that they don't have that. But anyway, I'm going to type Brewing Company because I want it all in caps. Now it's not going to look good in this font, and it's going to be way too big. Now with Gravit, normally you click on this to select it, but if you click off, then it shows the box. Then you can move it over here. And I actually used that one that I originally had, Roboto Condensed. So if you click on here and have that highlighted in blue, you could type Roboto. And I used Roboto Condensed. And then you could hover here and make it nice and small if you want. And put it under here. And that doesn't look bad. And I also spread it out with the character spacing. And I'll just go up here. Now if you go up, it's going to go way up. It's at 0.6, so I'm going to double click and just try 0.1 and see what that looks like. And that's not bad, depending what size you have. Depending how big it is, this may change. So it doesn't mean that if you use 0.1, it's going to look exactly like that. But for my size, 0.1 looks okay. And I'm just going to nudge it right up there. I'll center it on the page. And that's a nice kind of little accent to that. You know, it's subordinate to the Hoppy dog. Now the Hoppy dog, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a color. And I could leave this as black and then just give a color fill. I could go down here and add a color and just try out this kind of goldish color. You could try different shades of it, but I'll just use that gold color. And I'll click off and I'll click on again. And this time I'll add a border and I'll hit the plus sign. And I'll hover over here where you get this little double arrow. I'll make it nice and thick. It's like 5 or 6. You can go up to 6 maybe. And to highlight the contrast between them, you can add a second border. So if you click on the plus sign again, you have a border on top of it. Now this time I'm going to click in here and make it white. And you can see it's a real thin white in there. And I'll click over here again. And if you hover over here, I'm just going to go a little bit. And I just want a little bit to create a little separation between the black and the gold. And I think that looks okay. That's like 2. So that's 2, that's 6, and the white's on top. And you could try different things, but I think that looks okay. Now I'm going to center this Hoppy dog on the page. I'll go up here, click on that. And it didn't move, so that means it's centered. And that didn't move either. And besides, I do have it centered on this thing here, so that's looking pretty good. And this thing, this group, I'm just going to nudge it down, fit it in there in that little nook in there, and that's about it. You could certainly try other things. You could try ears or making the tongue different or whatever, but that's all I'm really going to do with that. And I think that's kind of what I had here. That looks a little happier, actually. He maybe needs bigger eyes or something, and his tongue looks a little long here. Let's see, that one. I think I like the shorter tongue. I think I like that one, but I'm not sure about the nostrils there. I think these nostrils look a little bit better, but certainly there's other things you could do. You could move the nose down lower, because I think the nose should be probably touching the mouth. I think that's why this looks a little better. He's kind of touching. So you could certainly try some different things, bring the nose down. Now if you had to do that, you could go into the dog layer, go to nose, and I'll zoom in here. And you could certainly, bring the nose down more. And then you could certainly click on the eyes and bring the eyes down more. You could make the eyes bigger if you think they're too small. You can make them bigger, and then I'll nudge it over myself so it stays on the border there. And you might even want to stretch it out. If you want the eyes stretched out a little bit, you could, and I'm just going to nudge it over so it stays on center like that. And I'll move it up a little bit, and that may look okay. I'm not sure. I'll close up dog. I'll zoom out. And I guess he looks happy. Hopefully he looks happy. I don't know if he looks as happy as that one. That one looks happier, but anyway, you could try to work on it to make it look happier. But that's my Hoppy Dog logo. When you're done with it, make sure you save again. And it might take a minute or two to save. And make sure you don't share it until you save it. Save it first. Make sure you don't have the asterisk over there. And if you don't have a share button, you can go here and go to File, Share, and do Share File. And then you should bring this up. And make sure to change this to Developer. That way I can get in there and see things and grab things and click in there. Otherwise, I just look at it. So change that to Developer first, then hit Copy, and it copies this whole URL here. It's not the same URL as up here, so I just want to point that out. So you can't just copy up here if you can't find it. So copy this, and then go back to My Warren, go back to Coursework, and it's Unit 4. And instead of clicking on this, because that was the shared link, you're going to click here, and you're going to add a comment. You're going to insert a link. You're going to paste that shared link that you just copied. You don't have to change anything here. Change this to new window so that when I click on it, it opens up in a new tab, and then hit save, and then hit save. And that's it, and it should look like that when you're done. So hopefully you enjoyed that, something just to kind of work with some of the tools in Gravit, kind of working on a logo with some text, with some imagery, trying to keep it simple and clever if possible. Again, this isn't something I spent days thinking about. It's just a quick logo I thought about that would be fun to do. So hopefully you'll have a little fun with that. You'll start to learn the tools with Gravit a little bit better. You'll feel a little more creative, and we'll do some more things on your own as we go on throughout the semester. Not that it's a design class, but so you can kind of participate in design as we look at other design with graphic design history. So that was the ex3, our Hoppy Dog logo.